Okay, welcome to our first podcast, camera-related podcast.
It's our second, right?
Second?
Yeah, I think first one was burnout in photography.
Okay, second.
Yeah,
We
so
haven't done this for a long time
but
already.
maybe this is the first one on site.
Yeah.
So this is not it at Ian's home.
Yep.
So we're at 8-story tree. They're purveyor of analog mediums, I guess, film and stuff. You can see all around.
And
We have
memorabilia.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's not for sale, but this is actually a phone. And that's actually a table lamp.
Yep. But we're using them both as mics.
Yep.
Yeah. So today we're gonna talk about something very interesting. This is actually our second take of doing this because the first one the audio wasn't really too good. But we're gonna talk about actually I think a very unique topic. I think breakthroughs in photography, and we don't really mean like breakthroughs in by camera manufacturers. We mean like personal breakthroughs. Yeah. So I think we all have breakthroughs in whatever hobby we do partake in. Maybe it might be good to define what you mean by breakthrough lah. So for me, basically a breakthrough is when you reach like another stage of development and you reach sort of like another plateau, but everything you see back or think about backwards in time, I guess you think of like as, oh, I can't believe I was that stupid, you know?
Not stupid, like I guess we just
Didn't know lah.
didn't know. So now we know what we didn't know.
Yeah, correct. So each time I guess we will have breakthroughs. I guess they come and go. Especially as you practice a hobby, photography being no different. But Ian, what about you? Like, have you had any like breakthroughs recently in the last year or so?
The recent breakthrough I had was when I bought a printer.
Okay.
Then once I got a printer, I realized that I don't have any photos that are worth printing.
Yeah, so I think it's just the workflow, right? Yeah. And what do you say it's a breakthrough? Like, why do you feel it's not like you can't really print most of your photos?
Because when you get a printer that can print big, let's say A3, you realize that most of your images aren't of sufficient quality that you want to print. Because once you print out a shitty quality image, right, it's just a bigger shitty image quality.
Yeah.
So like, if your camera's not up to task, the megapixel's not high enough, you got to put way more effort into your editing to just make sure it looks good when it's printed big. Because when you view it on your screen, if your screen is small, it looks okay. But once you see in real life up close, like 20 inches big, and you're like, I don't know, 6 inches away, you can really see all the detail.
Yeah.
You can see the distortion, you can see your framing if it wasn't cropped properly.
Yep.
So there's a lot that you need to consider, and also how you're going to display it.
Yes.
So your editing needs to change also.
Yep.
So you must edit for your lighting condition. If you're hanging up in a place that's a bit darker, you might need to brighten it up. You might need to shift the colors, and you have to match the color theme of the area that you're hanging up in also.
Correct. I guess like once you start printing it, there are certain factors you just didn't consider lah. When actually editing, for instance, and even like editing, you have to remain within a color space such that when you print, it looks very similar to what you see on screen. Just having that nailed down can take quite a while and a lot of test prints. You know, and I think one thing I learned from him as well, I guess it's a side breakthrough from Ian doing a bit more printing, is I realized there's so many different types of papers and how they perform with the same inks and the same printer, you know. So I had no idea like okay lah, to me like any print was a print. Like I'll go to Wampo and ask for a print, and I assume that would be magnified in a larger size had I printed a larger size. But I had no idea like how color reproduction could be different, how the details captured can be different, and even like different printers. So Uncle Chong, he also bought a printer after being influenced by Ian, and he got his own printer. Then we realized also like I think there's a slight color cast to each printer. So all these things, I guess printing is a dark art on its own lah.
So I mean, people would think that digital printing is simple, only the darkroom printing is difficult. Actually, digital printing is not easy. You should try it yourself.
Yes.
The types of paper you buy reacts differently with different printers also. The different set of inks reacts differently with different papers. But all I can say is that investing more would give you better results.
Correct.
If you spend I don't know, $200 on a printer and $20 on paper, obviously results won't be as good as if you spend $1,000 on a printer.
But I guess like not everyone can start off spending $1,000 or so lah. So I think at that point maybe it might be, if you're not printing so many things, then of course it might be better just to send it off and hire someone to actually print it for you. And I guess like you also found like some frames from IKEA, and then now he's been displaying his pictures
in the office.
in his office as well. So anyone who visits him will actually have a chance to
so
look
my
at...
colleague also recently asked me for some prints for her
nice.
room. So
we got to make a business out of this, you know. We got to earn some money. You got to earn your printer ink back.
So my office is going to be a gallery of my work.
Yeah. But I guess that's the thing. Once you start printing it large, it's actually like viewing your images at 100% crop.
Yes.
So that's when like pixels start mattering. We always talk about megapixels being like, as in you need a camera with like any camera is good.
No, everyone always says, 20 is sufficient.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sufficient for what purpose?
Yes.
Nobody defines the purpose.
Yeah.
So if you're posting online, I think 10 megapixels, 5 megapixels may be good enough.
Yeah, I think on social media also they compress the image further.
Yeah, correct.
So you don't really need much megapixels. You don't need the bit depth for all the color rendering, you know. Yeah. So I think the especially if you're gonna blow it up, you know, A3 and bigger.
Yes.
All this start mattering, and even like your fundamentals of photography become more important. Like
correct.
We always think that if you shoot on a 100 megapixel camera, you can crop more. You can crop more. But then you should just nail the shot in the beginning. Yeah. So at the most, you do a bit of slight rotation, all this, and then you have the maximum number of megapixels and detail you can work with so that you can print as accurately and as detailed as possible.
Yeah, I think if you're shooting like landscape also, it really helps if you have a lot of megapixels.
Yeah.
Because you never know when you want to crop in. So you should just shoot a little bit wider. Then you can crop in. Or if you want to do some like perspective correction, at least if you shoot wider, there's still sufficient data for you to compress and distort and things like that lah. So I learned that also. And also I guess shooting wider is one of the breakthroughs I had lah. Because I usually try to frame it just nice, but now I tend to shoot a little bit wider if I'm going to print, because I never know if I need to do some like perspective corrections.
Perspective corrections, slight rotation maybe, slight cropping, because like the frames we get may not be the aspect ratio of your photo, you know. So if you want to have that latitude, then of course you need to give a bit of leeway lah, you know, so that you have a bit of flexibility in editing. And then editing also is another ball game on its own lah. You have to calibrate your monitor, the light which you're editing under, and then of course, as you said, consideration for where the print will actually lie lah.
So the main thing is not about how good your gear is, it's also about how you take into account all the variables and then adjust the final output for what you want. So you can have a shitty room, a shitty monitor, but if you're good enough to know like I need to adjust the edit to get my final output, then that's the real skill needed lah.
I guess another breakthrough or personal breakthrough I've had in the last year or so is maybe carries forth from what you said lah. It's large format lah. So as he's been delving into print, I'm being re-attracted to large format because I realized how much detail you can extract from each image. So earlier on in the last year, we did some large format testing. We shot instant film on large format. We also went for let's shoot films, like a photo gathering for large formats. First time I've actually seen a guy carry a suitcase to bring his camera along. But I guess it's necessity, especially when you're lugging so much gear and such a big camera.
The camera's like that.
Yeah, it's the size of an A4. Your film plate is the size of an A4. So it's no surprise that the camera is much bigger.
The lenses also.
Yeah, the lenses are ginormous. And I guess to me, it kind of shifted the way I perceive photography. Like you finally realize like, actually the things you need to do photography well are very simple things. But I guess view camera, the camera that you use to shoot large format with, has a bit more flexibility on each frame. You know, each frame you have some camera movements that you can use to make it look a bit better. So especially if you're taking landscape or architectural, you can actually use perspective correction in body lah, in a way.
Yeah.
So you don't really lose much detail, especially with tilting and shifting. I think the other beautiful thing was that I learned, I think, a bit more about lenses lah. Because I think we're so used to like, you know, you buy a Nikon f-mount camera and you know you just buy an f-mount lens, it should fit. But the more larger your format goes, the more you realize it's not codified, you know?
It's like the Wild West when you come to large format.
Yeah, you know? Correct. No one really... Okay, maybe Intrepid still make... There are few camera makers.
There are few standards of like the what's the lens board.
Correct.
And then after that, there's different standards of the shutter.
Correct.
Then you have to figure out how your lens mounts to the shutter.
Yes.
So I also don't know.
Yeah, so all these things, as in you realize, as you said, like there's a big pool of I'm so confused right now.
Yeah.
So after researching much, I decided not to get it. But since Ian has been getting back into print, I've been wondering whether I should invest maybe in a 4x5 camera.
Yeah.
You know,
because the main problem now we face is that 35mm is not good enough to print in terms of resolution.
Correct.
You may all say that it's good enough, but I challenge you to find someone who can scan it properly and give me a 40 megapixel image out of my 35mm scan that's actually sharp.
I think maybe to qualify what you said lah, as in you can print 35mm.
You can't print it big.
I think don't go beyond 8x10 or so lah.
Yeah.
Once you start going 8x10, it starts getting blurry.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're viewing it like in a very social distance, I think it still might be okay. But the problem is when you have a print that big, right? You want to see it really up close. Like sometimes you have a beautiful landscape. You want to stand back, admire the entire landscape. But then also you want to like focus in on specific aspects of the landscape and enjoy those parts. And if you don't have the detail, then this is kind of lost. Or the honest of the print is kind of lost in that.
And people always say that you view your prints from far away. But it's not true because the prints I have hung up, right? People always go right up front like this and then they want to just like analyze the print.
I think it's just amazing like to see your actual... And I guess like just seeing a final product, something tangible that you can hold on to and manipulate or actually see and feel, that's a bit more interesting than seeing it on a screen, you know? Any other breakthroughs this?
Breakthroughs, I think maybe I have gotten less, how to say, I've stopped chasing new specs of cameras already.
Okay.
Because I find that the cameras these days have gone to like a plateau of really, really good. It's not just good enough.
Yep.
Everything has gotten to such a high level, especially in terms of video quality and video performance also. So I find that what's holding me back is never the camera anymore. It's the post-processing and whether I know how to color grade, how to edit. So I'm trying to improve on the editing because there's so much data that can be collected now. It's up to you to extract your vision from that.
Yes.
It's not that the camera is limiting you anymore.
So actually like your photograph should be like a creative endeavor. And the camera is just a tool that you use to maybe achieve that lah. So if you want to have a certain mood, you need to have... As you really need to start thinking why you're using this aperture, why you're using this shutter speed, you know? It shouldn't be just because this is the right exposure. It should be about how you're gonna set the mood within the image as well, you know.
So the camera captures so much data. It's up to you to extract out this amount of data that I want to show.
What you want to show and or what you can edit with to make what you want to show. So I think I think editing on its own, like after you started printing also lah, I started reading a bit more on like white balance lah, and I think it has been in a way a small breakthrough for me as well in my editing of photos. So like I've changed how I'm trying to use more and more curves to edit my photos. And I realized like when I look back at my old photos, I suddenly realized that all of them have this green tinge that I cannot see. So like I think previously maybe I just used the scans and I did like a very basic edit lah, highlights, shadows, contrast, that kind of thing. But I never really looked at the white balance of the image or like any like temperature or tinting on the image. So now that I've actually, it's like my eyes have been opened, you know? Once you start seeing the color corrected image properly, it's very hard to look at your old images and be happy with them.
So I find that scans, right, are quite green tinted, especially in the shadows. I don't know why.
So
I don't know if it's a property of the scanner that we use, because we sent to the lab, they use a Norisu scanner. I don't know whether it's something...
Or maybe it's just the person scanning or so lah. Maybe their eyes view it a bit differently.
No, but it's a bit strange because it's the shadows have more green. It's not like the whole image has more green.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. So I have had this problem also. And now the problem is now that I'm color balancing my images a bit more, I find that I suddenly notice this on all my images as well.
Correct. That's why I feel that pursuing perfect 35mm scans are just a waste of time already. We should just go like just go bigger, large format, use a flat bed, and you can get pretty good TIFFs out of that you can edit to hell lah. Because 35mm is such a limiting format, so I don't think we should limit ourselves with the medium. I mean, if I'm going to print big, obviously we should just try and just get a better raw image rather than force ourselves to use 35mm, use ECTA and like scan it with like, I don't know, $10,000 DSLR.
I guess 35mm has its role in place lah.
Yeah, but it has limitations also.
Yeah. As in the fact that it's so easily usable.
Yeah.
You can use it for snapshots. You don't really have to plan your shots out.
Yeah.
But I guess there's a reason why our parents generation, whenever they send their 35mm rolls in for development, they only print in such small formats.
Correct.
Yeah,
the max is 8x10.
Yeah, because I think maybe your camera wasn't so good, or like just the nature of the sensor, like the film it only has that much detail, so there's no point blowing it up way too big lah, you know.
So I think now my breakthrough is I want to get the good final product. Correct. I don't care what I used to get that. I don't worship 35mm. I don't worship digital. I just want to use the best medium to give my format lah.
Yes, totally understandable.
Yeah, which I think a lot of people are caught up in, like, oh, I need to use the Leica. I love Leicas. It's like I only shot Leica. It's like why limit yourself?
Sometimes when you really feel bad about your photography, just join a Leica group and then you just look at some of the photos. And that will just cheer you up, you know? You will realize that your photography isn't so bad after all.
But the reality check, right, is when you print your photo, right? Then you realize the shitty photo is a shitty photo.
Yeah. There's nothing escaping.
You can help. Yeah.
So actually Ian has been asking me to send images over. Then I also have difficulty finding the right images. Firstly, of course, it's lab scan, so it's not at the highest resolution. Second thing is, firstly, like the amount of pictures I post is already curated, you know, online. And from there, I need to curate it even further with enough detail so that I can print it. So that dwindles down thousands to like maybe 10 images that I may want to waste or like spend on, you know, getting a print off lah, you know, and you might still not be happy at the end of the day, you know. So that's the other thing lah. Yeah. Any other breakthroughs though?
Breakthrough also in printing. The cost of prints is not as high as you would think. You would think that the ink costs a lot. You think paper costs a lot, right? But actually, how many pictures are you printing? That is the thing. That's the giant breakthrough, right? It's like I don't have that many nice pictures to print, you know.
Yes.
So actually, it's like I'm not gonna go broke printing lah because I don't have that many pictures to print.
Yep.
So yeah, that's quite an interesting realization lah.
Yeah, but I guess also like you should hit a certain volume lah if you're gonna buy a printer.
Yeah. You print for friends lah.
Yeah, you can print for friends, and I'm sure they'll pay you an amount, or you can split on supplies and all that. Yeah. I guess another breakthrough for me, I guess in the last year or so, is I've been focusing less about, it's a bit counterintuitive to what we've been saying lah, but I've been trying to capture more emotion within my films lah.
It's a hands-on film.
It's not a hands-on film lah, but I guess it's like I see it more and more. So like, you know, like when you look at great artists, I think I've spoken to you about this before lah. You look at like Pablo Picasso lah. His early works, the paintings are amazing.
Correct. They're so technical.
They're so technical. They look beautiful.
Yeah.
Then as a kid, when I looked at it and then I saw how he progressed into very 2D imagery and stuff, I began to wonder like, why did his art regress? But now that I'm a bit more older, maybe because I'm a midlifer now, but when I look at the images, I kind of realize like you should just do what you want, you know?
Yeah.
And like as long as it captures a mood or what you want to show, I think that's good enough. Yeah. And I think you should, if you're happy with it, then that's fantastic.
Yeah,
you know?
Correct.
Yeah. So as much as we can aim for like a technically perfect image, the image has no value if it's just like I can shoot a technically perfect image of this camera that we're shooting on, you know? but then it might not invoke any emotion. I might not feel happy. As in, is it truly photography, you know?
I mean, is it what you want?
Yeah,
that's the important thing.
Yeah, so that's why like it's this last year has made me think a bit more about photography in this aspect lah. You know, not just
I think me too. It's like we are back into determining what is photography.
Yeah.
Rather than what is the medium we are using.
Correct.
It's like what actually should we do and what do we want to achieve out of it?
Yeah, and actually, funnily enough, I've been looking at like photography books lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess this is another personal breakthrough. I think like a lot of times we look at YouTube, we look at videos, and often at times they talk about gear reviews. So you always start, it kind of ingrains in you that you
But the sad thing is that gear reviews do better.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why people produce the videos, because they get more views lah.
Yeah, or maybe prove us wrong lah. Just like the hell out of this video.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess like these are the videos that do well firstly, so they will definitely try to produce these videos. But it ingrains within you this idea that you need the best gadget to make the best image.
Yeah.
And the best image has to be technically perfect.
But like I said before, most of the gear now is technically perfect.
It's technically good lah, not perfect lah.
Almost perfect. So I mean, you don't have to choose between I want ABC lens. It's probably gonna give you within 90% of the same result.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I guess this is like a mini breakthrough.
Yeah.
I think the thing about these breakthroughs is we're all in our own personal journey lah. I guess maybe looking back 5 years, 10 years from now, I will think that whatever I said in this video, I was a total idiot. I didn't know anything
Then
any
we are
better.
like spouting BS now.
Yeah. Or like maybe you're looking at it, just starting photography and then saying like, or feeling that whatever we're talking about doesn't really make sense to you.
Yeah.
But I guess we each have our own journey, and there are certain like it's a journey that everyone has to undertake lah, and we're gonna make some similar mistakes lah. You know?
So actually, also one thing I don't agree with a lot of videos that say, oh, if you're a beginner, you must buy this, you must buy this. I feel that it's your own personal journey. You should just buy and waste your money because that's how you learn.
Yeah.
If you want to buy something to try because you might feel that it's good at that point in time, you should do it because who knows, that might actually be the correct thing for you.
Correct. And as a beginner, I also think you gotta shift the mindset that the first camera is your last camera. Yeah, I think your first camera is actually just a starting point. So you don't have to get an expensive camera. But it will help you define which are the things you like in a camera, which are the features you don't, and then when you get your next camera, probably that'll be a bit more closer to what you want. But just be careful that you don't go end up chasing silver bullets lah. You know, you don't think that the next camera will bring your photography to the next level lah. I think this is a common trait that maybe
everyone asked me this, you know. It's like, should I buy a f1.2 lens?
As in, if you need it.
I mean, f1.2 is not going to fix your problems, you know. If you're not a good photographer, it's not going to help, you know. You're just going to fall into this bokeh trap.
Correct.
And everything's just going to be like out of focus.
Yes. And like even nailing focus with such a lens is almost an impossibility.
So unless you need a specific look for a certain for a certain project, it's not going to make your photography better lah.
Yeah, and I guess for maybe beginners who are watching this, this is another thing. When you're first starting off photography, you start off chasing sharpness.
Yes.
You start off chasing like least distortion, you know, this kind of things. But the more you shoot, the more you realize that certain lenses, they just have a look to them, a certain level of distortion, certain way it renders bokeh. And this might be pleasing to you, this might not be pleasing to you. But it's a personal breakthrough when you realize that it doesn't really matter. It's what you want at the end of the day, how you want to show it. So all these lenses, they can be amazing. It's just dependent on the user behind the camera.
But I think you go through a phase, cause
we all will go through that phase.
With video, I went through a phase of I need this like soft lens, bokeh lens, artistic lens. Then after that, I was like, no, it needs to be sharp because everything is blur. Then after that, you go back to like putting mist filters again on the sharp lens.
It comes in waves and goes.
It's like a cycle. It's like any trend.
Yeah, and then you worry about lighting, and then you talk about audio. That's another headache on its own. So I think that's the thing. Like we're all on our little journey. It's not to like, I guess we're just sharing our journey in this podcast here. We're not trying to. We hope that you learn from our mistakes lah.
But I hope that also you go on your own journey and you make the mistakes yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's no better way to learn than to actually make it yourself.
Yes. And sometimes sometimes you got to bring your film through an X-ray and realize sometimes that
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So as much as like a lot of people have certain opinions, of course, like don't go dunking your manual cameras, mechanical cameras in water lah, you know. But there are certain experiments you can undertake safely, and I guess go through your own journey and see where photography takes you lah. It's as much art as it is a science lah. So you should not just focus on one area. If not, you will be left like you'll be an incomplete photographer to some degree lah.
And don't I don't know. Don't don't be afraid of making bad purchases because everyone makes bad purchases. It's not the end of the world.
At the most, as in just sell it. It's not like you're buying a service where you cannot refund it. You know, you're buying a commodity.
It's not doing like permanent harm to you also anyway.
And also, like, if you're really buying a big purchase, just rent it if you see whether you can rent it and rent
ask
it.
friends if they have it. You can just try it out.
But you have to go through it. What we're trying to say is basically go through it on your own, make your own mistakes, learn from it. Maybe do what we did, share about it as well. And maybe in a year we'll do another personal breakthrough, or maybe we'll see what the next podcast will bring us.
You can see our friends if they have any personal breakthroughs. And maybe we can learn from them too.
If you've had any like personal breakthrough in the last year or something that's really changed your perspective on photography, we'd love to hear it as well. Maybe you want to drop a comment down below. I guess this is the end of the podcast. So if you love this episode, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode of Midlifers.
Bye.